Number 10. Key of Admittance. This puzzle is less of a direct puzzle that you need to find the answer to, and more like one of those mystery puzzle games where you have to locate the right items and figure out where best to use them. This puzzle only becomes accessible following the completion of Neem Fitzgerald's trial. Once this quest is complete, you will be able to access the headmaster's office. Once inside, you will need to be at level 3 for unlocking locks with your Alohomora spell. Unlock the level 2 lock, climb the stairs, and unlock the level 3 lock at the top. In this room, there will be a key on the desk, the Key of Admittance. You can now take this key back down to the headmaster's office, head down the spiral staircase, and from there, head to the end of the hallway, where you will find a big, ornate metal door with a large keyhole in the center of it. The Key of Admittance opens this door, and inside you will find a loot chest and a staircase that leads to a field guide page and 2 more chests. Woo! And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Gaming and if you want to see more Hogwarts Legacy content here, you can let us know by clicking that subscribe button. Number 9. Year 5? Now admittedly, it's important to note that I've only actually clocked about 15 hours of gameplay so far myself in this game, and much of that has actually been spent not necessarily grinding out that main quest, but exploring and taking in the details of this world. Honestly, there's so much to see and explore and do, and I could just probably wander around Hogwarts and have a great time. And also, all of that stuff is just within Hogwarts too, never mind the world outside, which is also amazingly vast and detailed, at least as far as I've seen thus far. When you start the game, however, you might be surprised to learn that you are a new student to Hogwarts who is in 5th year? So alas, no boat ride into the school for us. In fact, no conventional magical form of transport to the castle really at all. Instead, we start the game off by going on a mysterious adventure where we very nearly die, before arriving safe and sound, but a little worse for wear, at Hogwarts, having to find an unconventional way to the school with the help of our escort, Professor Fig. Why are we starting as a 5th year, and are there others who have done so in the history of the school? We don't really know off the bat. In fact, there are many questions left unanswered upon your start of the game, and even 15 hours in, I really only have a little bit more information in regards to others who started in their 5th year. Number 8. Ancient Magic. It seems something we possess in this game that makes us unique is ancient magic. What is ancient magic? That's a good question. For me right now, it's the ability to wandlessly, magically, and yet kind of seemingly telekinetically hurl objects at my enemy. But what it means to you changes as the game goes on. Our skills in ancient magic as a protagonist also help us seem to see things that others can't, seeing remnants of old magic left behind, which we are able to also in some cases tap into and even unlock. It turns out we aren't the only chosen one with this ability, but that perhaps in each generation a slayer is born. No, in each generation one witch or wizard ends up gaining this unique power. It's an ability that is acclaimed as being supremely powerful, but so far, other than a limited little bit of history, that's really all I know. Again, the ancient magic angle seems to be a mystery even to our own character, and one that unfolds throughout the course of the game. No explanation given straight from the start, so it's very interesting how they just kind of throw you in and they're like, there's a lot of things you don't know, so just figure it out. You're like, alright. Even your character is like, why is this the way it is? And you're like, yeah, why is it? Number 7. Follow the Butterflies. This is a quest that you can unlock in the game following your completion of the Jackdaw's Rest quest. This quest is obviously not itself super secret in regards to the game, not telling you about it as it does exist in the game as a named side quest, Follow the Butterflies. However, the reference is not necessarily explained, and that is the secret that I'm gonna let you in on here. This one is actually pretty niche, yet an awesome Easter egg I gotta say, in reference to the Harry Potter film Chamber of Secrets. When Hagrid tells Harry, Ron, and Hermione to follow the spiders into the Forbidden Forest so they can learn more about the basilisk, Ron laments this task given to them as they head out to follow the spiders, asking, why spiders? Why couldn't it be follow the butterflies? Sadly, Ron Weasley is not even born yet here, as the game takes place way in the past, but I can imagine this would be a quest that he would appreciate were he here. Thanks to Andy Reloads on YouTube for catching this very sneaky reference, by the way. I love it. It's such a good reference. Number 6. Door puzzles. Something the game doesn't tell you is how to do the puzzles, though I mean, of course it wouldn't. What would be the fun in that? However, as much as I love puzzles, I even struggled with some of what I would consider to be somewhat more basic ones. Or, maybe they're not that basic and I'm just not giving myself or the game enough credit here. Maybe I should be like, you know what? I'm sure other people struggled. That's why I'm gonna tell you about it. Here's the deal. I'm gonna let you in on one of these pretty important secrets, because you're gonna see these door puzzles pretty much soon after you start playing. I was close to solving this one on my own. I did end up needing a little bit of help, so I'm gonna help you as well. So these are puzzles you can find all around Hogwarts, and the problem really comes from the fact that there is a specific cipher page you actually need to have so that you have all the info to solve the puzzle. Although even on my own, honestly, without the cipher, as I said, I was pretty close to just figuring this one out myself. I just had the numbers a little bit off. On the doors, you'll see 2 circles, usually with a number in the center of the circle. On the ring of each circle, there will be 3 symbols. These symbols can either be a number, a type of magical animal, or simply a question mark or a double question mark. Near the doors, you'll also see what appear to be kind of like dice embedded into the wall. When you interact with these dice, they're basically going to shift faces, revealing a different outward face featuring a different magical animal. The same magical creatures that are featured on the archway above the door that you're trying to open. You don't need the cipher to solve these though. All you need to know is that on the arch, the creature on the bottom most left represents a 0, and the far most right represents a 9. Like this, with each one basically ascending or descending respectively by the value of 1, so like 9, 8 or 0, 1. The numbers in the center of the circles are what the 3 symbols surrounding add up to, with the question mark or double question mark representing the wall dice nearest the door. With this information, all you need are some basic arithmancy skills, and you'll have these doors open in no time. Who needs Alohomora, am I right?
How about doing at number 5, Hogwarts Legacy VR? Okay, the ability to explore Hogwarts and attend classes in a game like this where you aren't forced to play The Boy Who Lived has been wanted for ages. Plenty of fans have been wanting to go to Hogwarts for decades, as evident by the slew of records this game has shattered. Like I said, from most viewed games on Twitch ever to best-selling Harry Potter game, some fans though were still bummed by the inability to play this in virtual reality, which would let you feel like a true wizard. But that's kind of been solved in a sense, thanks to a VR mod by PreyDog. The Hogwarts Legacy VR mod is based on the universal VR mod made by PreyDog, which essentially makes almost any game developed with Unreal Engine 4 or 5 compatible with running in VR headsets. And since Hogwarts Legacy was made in Unreal Engine, it works with the mod. And while not an Easter egg for the game specifically, alright, it's still something that you can check out if you are underwhelmed by the lack of immersion. Currently though, it does require a keyboard and controller. You can't use the Oculus touch controllers or the like, but the experience is mostly a free-form first-person one. It changes to third-person during cutscenes and spells, but other than that, it's pretty cool. In it for wizard chess. Personally, I believe that Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone, whatever you want to call it, is one of the most unrealistic Harry Potter stories out there, okay? Because honestly, who in their right mind would do all of this insane shit as a 12-year-old who just found out they're a wizard? No way, not a chance in hell. Especially when I've been growing up getting abused by my deranged aunt and uncle for my whole life. Harry not developing some sort of personality disorder or trauma response because of that is absolutely insane, but it's that, again, aside the point. But also, like, this kid ends up thinking that a teacher is evil, so he, as a newbie wizard with uncle issues, thinks that he's gonna stop the adult full wizard who is a master of potions, and then chases what he thought would be that teacher through a series of trials that nearly kills him and his friends. Hermione can almost get poisoned, Harry almost bites it to the worst mullet in history, and I'm talking about Voldemort on the back of Quirrell's head, and Ron nearly gets crushed by a giant wizard chess piece because they all think that becoming chess pieces in a game where the pieces get destroyed is a good idea. But nevertheless, you can find one of the pawn chess pieces from that set in the Room of Requirement. It's not the one that Ron rides because he rides a knight and this is a pawn, but still, it's kinda cool. Getting close to the end of number 3, Sirius Black Cell. Prisoner of Azkaban is probably one of my least favorite Harry Potter installments, because like nothing really happens. And I mean, like, yeah, sure, Philosopher's Stone is unrealistic, but this one, it's kind of boring. Like, sure, there's time travel, but it's not like fun time travel. There's no conflict that arises because of it. Harry doesn't need to try to get his parents back together or something crazy like that. And I mean, like, yeah, it introduces Sirius Black, but the whole conspiracy about Sirius helping Voldy and killing Pettigrew, I don't know, it just seemed like it was a lot of exposition and there wasn't really any stakes. And while we may not really be able to reference events from this movie, since it doesn't have long-lasting consequences, you can still see the location where Hermione punched Draco, and through Professor Ronen's office up on the battlements, you're able to visit the very cell that Sirius Black was held in while he was waiting for his last meeting with the Dementors. Casting Revelio here will show you a field page guide hinting at other dark events to come. Maybe perhaps something that got into the dungeon? But ultimately, in at number 2, Avada Kedavra. This one's fairly simple. Avada Kedavra is the killing curse, and no one has ever survived it, at least at the time that this game is taking place. The only person who's ever going to survive it is Harry Potter, who got a lightning bolt scar for his troubles, which seemingly came out of left field and didn't really make much sense, at least to me, until I saw the spell being cast in Hogwarts Legacy, since the path made by the spell is very reminiscent of a lightning bolt. Not like the cartoon lightning per se, like Harry's scar or like the flash symbol, but definitely more lightning than other spells like Configure or Stupefy. So in that sense, it explains that aspect of things in my brain. I don't know. I've heard some say that it's like the movement that you have to make with your wand, and that's like the scar, and that's why he has it. But also, my experience with the Harry Potter dueling mobile game from back in like 2010, it has it more like a 4 that's had one too many butterbeers. All right, it's not a lightning bolt. Hopefully we can find a picture of it to put on screen. I don't know. The mobile game, by the way, was called Harry Potter Spells, and it is no longer available. I checked. And finally, in at number 1, Daedalian Key Quest. So I did mention that I think the Philosopher's Stone is the most unrealistic Harry Potter story, but nevertheless it is what started it all, so there's bound to be a few references to events that have yet to pass in terms of the game timeline. The Daedalian Key Quest in particular is one of them. The quest involves locating flying keys and placing them into keyholes of cabinets to unlock house tokens and exclusive house relic robes. This Easter egg references a trial created by Professor Flitwick to safeguard Nicholas Flamel's Philosopher's Stone, the one that was perfectly attuned to Harry's strengths of flying for some reason, but also didn't present any mortal danger to him like Hermione's trial or Ron's. Looking back though, imagine like if Ron was having like an off day and ended up getting his friends killed in the chess match, but he survived. Whew. Harry may somehow not have trauma from the Dursleys, but Ron definitely would after that. Oh, talk about Survivor's Guild. Do you think he would have been charged with like manslaughter? Do wizards have crimes like that they could like actually like try? And if they do try those cases, are they obstructing justice from the London court system? These are the kinds of things that I think about when not looking for Easter eggs.
Number 10, Brachia Memento. Brachia Memento, oh boy, this is a spell that is accidentally cast by Professor Lockhart in the films after Harry Potter falls and breaks his arm during a Quidditch match. Brachia Memento is a spell that Lockhart casts in an attempt to mend Harry's broken arm. Instead, it renders Harry's arm completely boneless, instead causing him to have to pay a visit to the hospital wing where Madame Pomfrey keeps him for a good while regrowing the bones in his arm with a potion known as Skellygrow that, if I recall correctly, works great but tastes and smells terrible, and whose process of regrowth is also incredibly painful. Still, I think that Brachia Memento would simply be super useful in a duel, considering you could just render your opponent's arms as basically noodles and pretty much defeat them permanently by leaving them unable to, pick up their wand and therefore use it in combat. It would take them a good while before they tried you again in combat, if ever, because honestly the process of regrowing bones, as described in the book, sounds terrible, and it also takes a while.
And at 9, Obliviate. Obliviate is the spell used by multiple people in order to wipe memories. Most commonly used by Professor Lockhart to make the actually useful witches and wizards forget that they were the ones who did the things he claims to have done in his books. He attempts to use it on Harry in Chamber of Secrets, but Ron's wand was busted and it made the spell backfire, causing Lockhart to forget everything instead. It was also used by Hermione in Deathly Hallows to have her parents forget about her, so good old Voldy couldn't have a reason to stop by, which I guess makes sense, but that guy also hates muggles to his very core, so I doubt he would have made himself go see them. Plus also, how would he know that she used that spell? But logical fallacies aside, the spell isn't usable in Hogwarts Legacy, but that doesn't mean the spell isn't in the game, alright? I mean, how else would you explain everyone just ignoring the millions of times you've tried using Avada Kedavra on your classmates?
Number 8, Spongify. Spongify. Spongify is actually a super useful spell in the original Harry Potter games for PC. It allows players to leap into action. I remember it fondly from the Chamber of Secrets game specifically, where we can learn Spongify in Defense Against the Dark Arts from Professor Lockhart. And although this is the second spell that I have mentioned specifically that I learned from Lockhart, I'd like to reiterate that no, I'm not a Lockhart fangirl. I just really love the nostalgia of this spell, and of course I really love the silliness of the previous one that he cast. We've named actually a few Lockhart spells. We're not Lockhart fans. Or are we? Also, as I said, Brachymemento would have been super useful in combat, okay? This one would be as well. Spongify is useful in terms of quests and looting, but also could have uses in combat as well, allowing you to leap out of the way of your enemy's spells. Spongify was used to create a trampoline-like surface, and even games like Hogwarts Mystery has acknowledged the use for the spell in previous games, which I love. For me, this is also why I loved things like Wiggenweld Potion reappearing in Hogwarts Legacy. Wiggenweld is a potion I remember fondly from my early PC gaming days. Back in the original Harry Potter games, however, the healing potion was much more comically large, thanks to those classic in-game graphics of the early 2000s.
And it's 7 Eat Slugs. Slugulus Eructo, otherwise known as Eat Slugs, is a hex that, well, makes you eat slugs. Kind of. Technically, you reverse eat them. The effects of the spell wear off on their own, however, it is also able to be cured fairly quickly with Terrical Fudge, which takes effect within seconds. Although I really wish that this was in the game, because it doesn't hurt anyone. It would be a great way to temporarily distract enemies, and it would give you a reason to carry around Terrical Fudge, because that's a thing in games, right? You don't need a health potion if you have Terrical Fudge. Also, don't you think that it would be hilarious to start hexing the students since you're unable to kill them? Right? Come on. Ron uses the spell in Chamber of Secrets trying to hex Malfoy, but his broken wand made it backfire. And fun fact, the actual incantation for this spell wasn't revealed until LEGO Harry Potter Years 1 to 4, where you can buy the spell in Diagon Alley. Before that, we just thought it was Eat Slugs, but it's not, which means that Ron was able to cast this hex non-verbally, which is kinda nuts, because that would also mean he would have had to practice it a lot. But you also can't use magic outside of Hogwarts, so the dude must have been going crazy his first year, because this is some advanced level magic doing it non-verbally, because, you know, students aren't taught non-verbal magic until their 6th year.
Number 6. Aguamenti. This spell is used to summon water. I've always thought it was odd that for some reason we kinda learn Incendio most times before we learn Aguamenti. Aguamenti is a charm that is part of your newts, a charm learned therefore in your 6th year as opposed to your 5th year. It seems irresponsible to me to teach people how to set fire to things in 5th year without teaching them how to first put out said fire. Granted, Aguamenti doesn't work against all kinds of fire. While you can use it to distinguish flames conjured by Incendio, it won't work on curse flames conjured by the Fiendfire spell. Still, it seems like it would be a pretty useful spell to know when you consider that in a duel in Hogwarts Legacy, you can literally light your opponents aflame and also be lit aflame yourself. Yikes.
Halfway through into number 5, Descendo. Haha, but while it is kind of pointless, Flipendo is worth it when you combine it with the Descendo spell, which I feel is self-explanatory, okay? Because like Flipendo flips your opponent upside down and then Descendo makes them, well, descend quickly onto their back and then they rise back up. So basically you can be like the Hulk and just chain this over and over and you can slam Loki back and forth, which is, yeah, it looks hilarious to actually watch happen. I would love that. I'm like, imagine like dribbling a basketball, right? But the basketball is a person. That's what this spell does, and it is glorious. In it for Confringo. That's how I'm saying it, alright? Like I said, I'm not a wizard, it's fine. This spell can be obtained during the main storyline, and of course, it's given to you by Sebastian, because he's a dick, and he gives you all the spells that hurt people. But I mean, I respect it. Towards the end of the term, players will receive an owl letter instructing them to meet Sebastian in the Dark Arts Tower. Upon arrival, players will be taken to the Undercroft. There is where Sebastian will teach you the spell. During the quest, you'll have to practice it on like chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, but I guess it's medieval Britain, so they're braziers, but I feel like people are gonna get that confused in the comments, but whatever, that's fine. And then once the quest is completed, you can use it whenever you want. The primary purpose of this spell, though, is to just counteract red shields and actually hit people from a range. Yeah, it's better than things like Incendio, which is pretty trash when you think about it, but also why is it trash? It's literally a flamethrower coming out of a stick. It should be better than that. But considering how trash Incendio actually is compared to it, it shouldn't take us much time to learn it, okay? I mean, it really shouldn't. Come on, why aren't we learning this right off the bat? What happened to defending our... I guess it's not really defense. It's more of pseudo Avada Kedavra, but that's fine. Getting close to the end of number 3, Bombarda. Basically the best offensive spell that is not illegal in the game. New spells are learned with extracurricular assignments, and their purpose is to like help catch you up to the level of a 5th year, because you start the game as a 5th year, which is kind of weird, but I mean I kind of understand it, but like oh well. Bombarda is the award for completing Professor Hallwin's assignment. I think that's how you say it. This quest is unavailable until after you've completed Charles Rockwood's second trial, whatever that means. I'm sure players of the game will understand it. But then after completing this, you'll receive an owl with the assignment. The assignment has you traveling around catching 2 different beasts that are conveniently locked on your map. These beasts are they're kind of easy to catch. Okay, it's a Duracall and a giant purple toad, which if you don't know what the last one is, it's a giant purple toad. After you catch these 2, you bring them back, and then after the next beast class, Bombarda will be taught to you. But like my question is, why the hell are we learning this so goddamn late? Because you have to get a knapsack in order to actually capture the creatures, but you don't get a knapsack until you're level 15. Okay, so you're gonna be waiting a while to get the best non-illegal spell in the game. Like I feel like I can get the illegal spells a little faster, you know? But ultimately, into number 2, Imperio. Imperio is classified as an unforgivable curse, but it can temporarily control enemies to fight for you. So yeah, mind control, that's fun. To obtain this curse, players, again, you get it from Sebastian, because like I said, he's a dick and he teaches you all the bad spells. But I mean, also, that's kind of sick, because like, come on. I feel like this might be better than learning it from Mad Eye Moody. You get it from In the Shadow of the Bloodline, which is the first quest in his storyline thing. So yeah, after completing astronomy class, you can actually get it first, which I mean I guess is okay. But yeah, I mean I don't know. You control enemies. Okay, you find an ogre, then boom. He's just wiping out everyone for you. I don't know how else I can explain it. It's a good spell, but it's quite a bit to go through for a spell. All right, can't I just like have Mad Eye Moody's ancestor come in and just like shoot them all on like crabs? Was it crabs? I feel like it was some kind of crab in the movie. And I'll just like wipe them out and then be like, okay, I know what to do now. Come on. And finally, into number 1, Stupefy. This Stupefy is both simple to use and incredibly effective, because it's basically the base spell in combat. Whenever the player blocks an enemy attack, you can follow it up with a counter attack, which is Stupefy, and you just continue to hold down the Protego button, whatever it is. I don't want to have to try to say the spells anymore. This will cause you to launch a Stupefy spell at whoever you're locked onto, but it doesn't actually have to be the person that you blocked. So it's a weird thing. Stupefy stuns the enemy that it hits, and then they take critical damage for the duration of the stun, so you can just like keep spamming them, and then they'll increasingly take more damage. So maybe, I don't know, considering how this is like a counter spell, it should be at the top of the list, but maybe, I don't know, maybe you think it's cheating, I don't care. Sometimes less is more though, alright? Simple is better. It's also worth noting that Stupefy targets whoever the player is actually locking onto, like I said, and not the enemy that you actually blocked. So you can have like weaker enemies attack you, and then you can like chain stun the tougher enemies. So yeah, you can do that. So that's a good thing. But I personally, myself, prefer the Stupefy from the Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince Wii game from 2009. Oh yeah, you could just like spam Stupefy and then you eventually won. What a wonderful combat system. Better than Hogwarts Legacy. I'll tell you that right now. No one's gonna be mad in the comments. It's fine. In a 10 party wipe, you can become the most powerful of all dark wizards in Hogwarts Legacy if you so choose. And the setup that allows you to do so is so insanely overpowered that you can take out a massive group of enemies with one spell. Yeah. What is essentially the glass cannon build for Hogwarts Legacy? If you know the Crucio and Avada Kedavra spells along with the mastery talents for these curses, you can be what is essentially death itself. Avada Kedavra normally only targets one enemy. However, the Avada Kedavra mastery talent allows for the curse to hit anyone with the hidden curse status effect, which is given to characters when an unforgivable is used on them. Crucio is the easiest way for this effect to be applied, and with the Crucio mastery talent, you can cause Crucio to spread to other nearby targets. It's very useful for spreading curse to as many enemies as possible without actually having to target them individually, which is important because, well, once curse has been applied to all or almost all of the enemies in the area, you can use Avada Kedavra to wipe them all out. It doesn't matter what enemy you hit, as long as they're all cursed, all you gotta do is use Avada Kedavra once and score an instant kill, and then all the enemies with curse will die. Yeah. Absolutely terrifying.
Number 9, get a reaction. Really doesn't feel like I'm stepping up here with my point, but hey, I'm all about relationship building in games, so for me this is something pretty big. While there is no morality system for you to worry about in Hogwarts Legacy, and thus of course no real judgment that can come from you using unforgivable curses or devastating, damaging consequences from doing so either, well other than death obviously, there are those among your companions that will not be fans of you doing so and will make it known to you. That being said, they also won't stop being friends with you, or get you in trouble, or anything like that. They'll just have a reaction whenever you cast the killing curse around them, which I feel like makes sense. I mean, if you want to cause a stir and get a reaction out of any of these companions, then this might be a curse that you want to use. But also, if you don't want to see them react negatively, even without any actual impact to your relationship with them, then perhaps the killing curse is best for you to avoid casting around these folks, or even just learning altogether. Those that have been known to react negatively to you doing so include Natty, Ominous, and Amit. I'm personally torn between whether or not to even learn this one due to Natty not being a fan, because I myself, I'm a huge fan of Natty, who might actually also be my number 1 crush over at Hogwarts in the game so far, so I don't know, but it'd also be so useful.
And it ain't anger management. As the protagonist of the game, as Amanda just said, you can't really get in trouble for the things that you do. Not in a significant way. Cause then, who else is gonna save their sorry asses at the end of the day, right? Yeah. Well, knowing that you can't get in trouble for it, the developers did plan ahead. Much like Bethesda preventing kids in their games from being killed, no matter how goddamn annoying they are, you can't kill any of the classmates or staff in this game for multiple reasons, as well, like breaking the game. However, this means that should you have a bad day, in real life or in game, you can rejoice in the fact that you can run around school and take it out on everyone you see. And you don't need to worry about the repercussions either. Yep, that's right, you're basically like a hot girl in an 80s coming of age college movie in Hogwarts Legacy, which is a whole other can of worms that I don't want to think about too much, because if I'm honest, it's kind of concerning, which is ironic given the topic we're discussing. But hey, if you don't want to go to therapy, you can always have your virtual magic punching bags at your fingertips. I still prefer blade and sorcery personally, but hey, that's me.
Number 7, defeat enemies. As Connor said earlier, while you can't use this curse on your fellow classmates at the school, there are some creatures you can use it on. Apparently innocent little ones too, which I don't like it. Yes, you can use Avada Kedavra in combat as well. You can use it against formidable foes that are in essence mini-boss tanks, such as fearsome Acromantula and even destructive trolls. Heck, even armored destructive trolls. This curse is extremely overpowered when it comes to battling some of the most troublesome enemies that you can come up against. But that being said, if you are tempted by the dark arts because of the seeming ease of this spell, then you should also know that it isn't the only path you can take when it comes to easily defeating your enemies. And it's also got a really long cooldown, so something to think about. There are other branches you can lean into in order to gain the ability of just one-shotting your enemies, especially when combined with other skills like potion making. And don't even get me started on all the kind of damage that you can do with just your herbology skills alone. Also, while I'm fine with this curse being used against tough enemies, I certainly would fight to protect any little innocent creatures that you might feel tempted to use it on. Don't do it. Don't do it!
And it's 6, killing Crookshanks. Yeah, that's right. Avada Kedavra is just as bad as you'd think it would be. I mean, it's the killing curse. So, yeah. But while you might not be able to harm your fellow Hogwarts alumni, you can go around harming innocent creatures, like cats. Yeah, because, well, you can in theory. I've avoided looking it up for obvious reasons, but YouTuber Mr. Moose, who is the first to experiment on our poor feline friends. The player performs Levioso, raising the cat into the air before using Expelliarmus to fling it under a public bench where it just seems to cease to exist. It like blinks out of existence. But yeah, I'd like to say that this makes me very sad, okay? I'm a dog person, but still, leave the kitties alone. Anyway, many have pointed out that you can seemingly use any spell in Hogwarts Legacy on cats. So, yeah. You see where I'm going with this. I mean, sure, you can go around and you can be a monster because it's a game world and there aren't really any consequences for you being a total lunatic, but I don't know, maybe you'll have some internal conflict about harming an innocent kitty cat, or hopefully you would, because come on, even in games, I feel like the general community feels like animals are off limits. That's why games are focusing on like giving animals power, like Goat Simulator, Untitled Goose Game, or that one with the squirrel wielding a 9mm. But hey, don't kill the cat. And I mean, it's not Crookshanks specifically, but if I said killing an animal in the title of this and put it in the description for tags, YouTube would get mad at me. So there you go. Halfway through into number 5, Wendelin the Weird. Wendelin the Weird was an eccentric British medieval witch who was famous for being burnt at the stake no less than 47 times in various disguises. Yeah, that's right. Damn straight. During the Middle Ages, Muggle witch hunts were at their peak, alright? Kind of obvious, you know, Salem. Stemming from the desire to experience a pleasant tickling sensation from the flame freezing charm, Wendelin took it upon herself to be captured no less than 47 times in various different disguises and looks to be repeatedly burnt at the stake. With the use of the flame freezing charm, the pyres were rendered harmless, creating only a gentle tickling sensation, which Wendelin enjoyed immensely. That's a kink I didn't expect to learn about, but hey, it's a thing. During the 1890s, a tapestry of Wendelin the Weird hung at Hogwarts Castle, a tapestry that you can find in Hogwarts Legacy. One that quite a few people have also noted looks a disturbing amount like She Who Must Not Be Named, you know, the author. Most notably for me though, I saw this in a TikTok which I think has since been removed and not by the creator, which sucks, because that's funny as hell. In it 4, talking mirrors. In Hogwarts Legacy, players will come across various talking mirrors that provide commentary on their appearance. These mirrors may offer compliments on the player's fashion or just natural born beauty, or they'll insult you to your very core. These talking mirrors are actually an Easter egg as well, and they draw inspiration from Harry's experiences with talking mirrors at both the Weasleys and the Leaky Cauldron. Fans of the book series will also appreciate the humor and witty remarks found in the game that are very similar to the books. You can be greeted with pleasantries such as, quote, "What a lovely treat to have you walk by. Be sure to pass by at least once a year, twice if you can," and, quote, "My, what a striking face. You'll make quite the portrait one day. I wouldn't want to be hung next to you," which doesn't exactly feel like a compliment, but I get the sentiment behind it. But also, you can experience the deepest of cuts like, quote, "Oh, don't tell me. That's Muggle fashion, isn't it? Can always tell. So very drab," which really hurts, okay? Because why are these mirrors hating on suits? Suits are cool. Exhibit A. Look at any of the videos when I'm wearing suits. I should have worn a suit for this video. I wrote that when I was wearing a suit. So, yeah, it was supposed to be a Barney Stinson reference, but I guess it kind of fell through. Getting close to the end, in number 3, Trophy Room. A delightful Easter egg in Hogwarts Legacy awaits those who venture up to the Trophy Room from the Grand Staircase. Here players can discover a Hogwarts Herbology Award presented to the current Herbology professor, Mirabelle Garlick. The trophy was awarded to Mirabelle in her 7th year at Hogwarts in recognition for her impressive work with flora, including mandrakes, mistletoe, bubotubers, and bouncing bulbs. The latter two of which sound like things I shouldn't be talking about on this channel. The Trophy Room is also home to other nods to the main series, such as the casket that houses the Goblet of Fire. Overall, this hidden treasure adds another layer of depth and authenticity to the game, and also it offers players a chance to discover more about the world of Harry Potter. Plus, we all love a good trophy room, right? Don't we? Or is that just the king in me coming out? I don't know. Hopefully the DLC that everyone is assuming we're going to get, even though it's 5 days after release, will be a Triwizard Tournament one. Because, like, yeah, I like the Chamber of Secrets and all, but, like, a Triwizard Tournament would be so much cooler. And plus, depending on what you're in, you can, like, try to, like, sneak into the trophy room to put your name in the cup. or like, I don't know, it'll actually be fun rather than just exploring something we've seen in how many other games? And ultimately, in at number 2, Howler. Hey, looks like Weasley's got himself a Howler. That was more Australian than British, but whatever. Fans of the Harry Potter series will no doubt remember the hilarious and awkward scene where Ron Weasley received an angry animated letter from his mother. The iconic moment has been recreated in Hogwarts Legacy, providing players with a fun and familiar Easter egg to discover. But the thing is, there is no specific location in the game where this scene can be found. Players can come across a student who's being scolded by a floating letter that loudly berates him in front of their peers, eventually exploding into hundreds of pieces of paper, just as depicted in the books and the movies. But yeah, you can't like wait around to find it. You have to find it by exploring the various interiors of the school, and then you can stumble upon this tribute to Ron Weasley and his infamous letter. Yeah, it's not a guarantee when or where though, but it should happen at some point during your playthrough. Just keep an eye out so you don't miss it. And finally, in at number 1, the Deathly Hallows. In the Harry Potter universe, the Deathly Hallows are legendary magical objects said to be created by Death himself. These immensely powerful items consist of the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and the Cloak of Invisibility. The Elder Wand is renowned for its unbeatable power, the Resurrection Stone can summon the spirits of the dead and even bring people back, and the Cloak of Invisibility is it's kind of in the name. If you're wearing it, you're invisible. Excitingly enough, these 3 items actually make an appearance in Hogwarts Legacy, albeit in a limited capacity, because let's be honest, that makes sense. During the 3rd Keeper trial, players are transported to a storybook world where they can encounter the Deathly Hallows. Though players can't necessarily wield them in the game, this subtle nod to the books and movies will no doubt thrill fans who wanted to actually see these in the flesh, or as close to it as they can get. But then this also begs the question, how did Dumbledore get the wand? Or how did like James get the cloak? And how did the stone get in the snitch? But I guess then again, this is also in a storybook, so maybe it's just replicas in the book, or I don't know, maybe Dumbledore just like kept them after his trial, because he's a badass. In at 10, Hagrid Memorial. Players of Hogwarts Legacy have discovered what they believe to be a tribute to the late Robbie Coltrane within the game. Harry Potter enthusiasts are thrilled to see Hagrid, one of the most adored characters from the books, receiving some acknowledgement within the game, even though technically he might not even exist yet. Throughout the series, Hagrid has played various different roles, such as the groundskeeper of Hogwarts and in fact a teacher, and due to his relationship with Harry, he became a significant figure for fans. And following Coltrane's passing back in October of 2022, fans are happy to see him getting at least a little bit of a feature within the game. The memorial is conveniently located by flying south of Hogwarts until you find Hagrid's hut. Yep, it's right behind there. It's positioned outside by the lake, and near that hut is a small gravestone with a hippogriff on the front, which many believe to be a nod to Hagrid and his beloved Buckbeak, which I mean, I feel like is pretty accurate considering it's Hagrid's hut. And at 9, Vanishing Cabinet. The Vanishing Cabinet is a pretty pivotal item in the Harry Potter series, as a pair of Vanishing Cabinets would act as a passage between 2 places. Vanishing Cabinets were also highly popular during the First Wizarding War, because in the event of a Death Eater attack, you could just like step into it and then disappear to the other one, and then when the danger was gone, you could just go back. If an object had been placed in one, it would appear in the other, okay? It's just like Star Trek teleportation. It's teleportation, alright? A feature though, that allowed for Draco Malfoy to successfully transport several Death Eaters from Borgin and Burkes into Hogwarts during the Half-Blood Prince, an event which directly caused the death of Albus Dumbledore and in essence started the final battle with Voldemort. And this heartbreaking moment is referenced in Hogwarts Legacy, which I mean makes sense, given that the very same Vanishing Cabinet can be seen by the player in the Room of Requirement. And since the original Vanishing Cabinet was also in the Room of Requirement, we definitely know that this was meant to be the same one. Plus, I mean, come on, there's no way that it's not. We all know it. And a giant squid! It's well known that the Great Lake houses many different creatures. A lot of them, alright? It's weird. But none are bigger or perhaps more terrifying than the giant squid. And because the Slytherin common room is actually below ground, you can summon this thing by auto-attacking the windows. Yeah, if you do it enough, you'll be treated to one of the squid's huge tentacles just slamming against the glass. And that's not the only instance you can see this thing either. The giant squid cave is a secret hidden area beneath Hogwarts Castle, accessible only by swimming. In this cave, a squid-themed pedestal can be found next to a mosaic, indicating a potential entrance to a secret area. And as it turns out, placing Toast onto the pedestal unlocks Jack Daw's Rest quest, the 15th main quest from the storyline, because you know, giant squids love toast. Players will also be able to sneak a sight of the giant squid while they fly past the lake, because as you zoom above it during like flying practice, I think is the situation where this happens, you can see the tentacles pop out. And you can do this no matter what house you're in, alright? So you don't need to worry about being a snake in order to see this game's tentacles. And yes, you know what I meant. And it's 7 Follow the Butterflies. Yep, that's right. There is actually a quest called Follow the Butterflies in Hogwarts Legacy. I'm sure Ron would be pretty steamed about that, given that the name is a direct reference to the iconic line from Chamber of Secrets, "Why spiders? Why couldn't it be Follow the Butterflies?" To begin this quest, you gotta head to Hogsmeade and speak to Clementine Willardsley. She can be found in the Three Broomsticks, and she'll ask you to follow some butterflies deep into the Forbidden Forest. Cause you know, it's forbidden, so go in there. Do it. You can get there a couple of ways, but the most efficient is to travel by flue to the Forbidden Forest fast travel point and then head north to find these butterflies. The swarming group is red, orange, and purple, so you'll know it when you see it, and then just approach them and then they'll begin to move. So then you gotta follow them as the quest name indicates, and they'll go down the stream and travel up a path and stuff, and then you'll have to fight a Dugbog and some poachers along the way, but keep following them and you'll find a box. You loot it, and then you return to Clementine at the Three Broomsticks, and then you tell her what happened. You can tell her that you found treasure, or you can say that there was nothing there to make sure that you get to keep the loot for yourself. Even though I haven't played it, I feel like even if you say you found the treasure, she's like, okay, you can keep it. I feel like that's the thing. And it's 6 Weasley twins. I think in the Harry Potter series, gingers are pretty synonymous with the Weasley family. I mean, I don't think there are any other gingers in the books or movies that aren't Weasleys, but that's also kind of the point. No matter. Despite what may be accurate, I think we all think Weasley whenever we see a ginger in Harry Potter. So, imagine the intrigue when we see 2 of them outside of Zonko's joke shop in Hogsmeade. Yeah, in Hogwarts Legacy you can find 2 identical ginger twin boys wearing what are seemingly hand-me-downs looking into a prank shop. I mean, Easter eggs don't really get as direct as this, okay? Especially when they're twins that are representing future Hogwarts pranksters that will one day own their own joke shop in Hogsmeade. Although these obviously aren't actually Fred and George, since they wouldn't even have been a possible thought yet, let alone alive, given that their parents probably aren't born yet and are probably a couple of generations away at best. But it's confirmed that they're not Fred and George because both of them have both of their ears and they're both alive.
Number 5, Disillusionment Charm. This one is a spell that you likely want to learn early on in the game. Definitely earlier as well than when you actually get to learn it, which considering the length of the game, you know, is still fairly early on, but considering how useful this spell really is, definitely not early enough for my tastes. The Disillusionment Charm was something I wanted to cast ever since I noticed that there were chests that, you know, to open them, you would need to sneak up on them. I was like, how do I sneak up on these chests? How do we do that? I figured we wouldn't be getting an invisibility cloak anytime soon, and definitely not the invisibility cloak, which is the Deathly Hallow that Harry himself inherits, so I assumed that, you know, we would need a spell for that. Or, you know, potions. I was already like making invisibility potions at this point in the game. The Disillusionment Charm is just that, making you appear invisible to those not looking closely. However, this spell is obviously not perfect, and as a result, even while disillusioned, if you move too quickly, too closely to an enemy, you will be noticed. You learn this spell when sneaking into the restricted section of the library, but there are definitely in-game uses that present themselves prior to you learning it as part of the overall main quest. So,
In it 4, Flipendo. After completing Professor Garlick's first task, players will then receive an owl with a second. The rewards for this one is Flipendo. As this is an assignment for the herbology professor, there's going to be a lot of plants involved. So to complete this second assignment, you're going to need to use all 3 combat plants at the same time while also growing and harvesting a fluxweed plant, which requires you to actually buy the seeds, and you have to have a table large enough to grow the plant in the room of acquirement. It's a whole kerfuffle, okay? Fluxweed plants require a large table to grow and take 15 real minutes to grow, making it like, yeah, it's a better option to focus on first, but again, it's still 15 minutes of your life that you're going to be waiting for these things. The seeds can be purchased at the Magic Neep in Hogsmeade for 350 galleons, but then after buying the seeds, you also need to make sure you have the table in the room of acquirement that has a large pot, and that's not something you'll typically get, so you'll need to head to Tomes and Scrolls and purchase the scroll for a large table, the cheapest of which is 1,000 1,000 galleons. After buying the seeds and the table, you make one of the rooms and then you plant the flux weeds in the room of requirement and then you wait 15 minutes before it can be harvested. But during that time, you'll also need to acquire all 3 combat plants and then use them all at once on an enemy. That's a whole lot to do for a spell that has nothing to do with plants. Okay, I'm just saying. It flips people upside down. And not even like with a vine or something, it just does it. Why are there plants involved?
Number 3, Crucio. I mean, because who doesn't want to stop their enemies in their tracks by blanketing them in pain that is extreme and ultimately unforgivable? I think once all of us figured out that the unforgivable curses were in the game and could be cast, we're kind of curious about them, right? I mean, even myself, not knowing if I'm personally going to learn these spells and use them, I'm still intrigued by their existence. Crucio in the game does recurring damage to enemies, so once cast, enemies will slowly have their life drained over time as this curse continues to take effect. You can learn this spell only much later in the game from your ally and companion Sebastian Sallows as part of the Shadow of the Relic quest, or afterwards in the Dark Arts Battle Arena, which is, what we've been talking about with all of the forgivable curses, because, I mean, honestly, we all kind of want them, I think.
But ultimately, and number 2, Bombarda. Like I said previously, new spells are learned with extracurricular assignments, and they're meant to kind of also help you catch up to the level of a 5th year. But Bombarda is a reward for completing Professor Howin's assignment. The quest is unavailable until after you complete Charles Rockwood's second trial, and then after completing it, you'll receive an owl. The assignment has you traveling and catching 2 different beasts, both conveniently marked on your map when tracking the quest, because of course, at least they're doing that for us. We don't actually have to go out and find it ourselves. One of the beasts that the player will need to track down is called a Diracall. Next, you'll also need to capture a giant purple toad. I mean, it seems pretty self-explanatory what that is. It's just a giant purple toad, but it's also recommended that you stealth around his swamp because he's kind of like Shrek, and there are also more aggressive frogs that will attack you, and they're actually pretty decent in large numbers, but that's aside the point. After completing the assignment, you'll be able to return to another beast class where Professor Howin will teach you Bombarda afterwards, but in order to capture these creatures, you need a knapsack, which you can't get until level 15. So you'll be waiting a bit to get the best non-illegal spell in the game, which sucks, because why shouldn't I just go around murdering everybody if I have to wait that damn long?
Number 1, Avada Kedavra. Avada Kedavra is of course another unforgivable curse, and probably the curse that people were the most curious about in regards to its existence and potential uses in the game. Well, you can indeed cast Avada Kedavra, and yes, you can use it to kill your enemies. However, you can't use it to kill just anyone. Characters that need to stay alive for quest purposes and other fellow students as well as staff at Hogwarts are of course immune to this curse. You cannot kill them or harm them with Avada Kedavra. So it's mainly used for combat, and only if you learn and want to use it. It's even been theorized, although I myself am not actually sure about this, that you could use this spell on the main quest boss. The reason why so many are not sure, however, if this can be done is because the main quest is a lower level quest than the one that you need to go on in order to unlock the spell. The quest in relation to Sebastian Sallows' Shadow of the Relic, which is also optional. Avada Kedavra is also known as the Killing Curse and is notorious in Harry Potter lore for being a one-shot insta-kill spell. Rip Sirius Black and so many others that were killed by it.
In at 10, Avada Kedavra. Avada Kedavra is one of the strongest spells in Hogwarts Legacy because of its ability to, well, kill anything in one shot, which I mean, duh, it's the Killing Curse for a reason. But due to its strength, Avada Kedavra is a spell that you learn pretty damn late into Hogwarts Legacy from Sebastian Sallows. Despite the fact that, from my understanding, at least from the Harry Potter universe, is that all you need is the name of the spell, and then you can use it, but whatever, I don't know. It's at the top of this list, however, because while it is the Killing Curse and a one-shot, making it the best offensive spell in the game, it's limited in the sense that you get it later on in the game after like the main story boss. So it's difficult to get, which makes it somewhat worse, but it's also limited because it can only target a single individual and then takes ages to recharge. Yeah, but there's a way that you can make it absolutely insane. In at 9, Crucio. To get Crucio, you just need to start the Sebastian questline and then finish the side quest in the Shadow of the Bloodline, which starts in the Great Hall. It automatically gets added to your quest log after progressing through the story far enough, and specifically after completing the main quest number 29, which is astronomy class. Then you'll get this spell in Shadow of the Study, which is the second quest in Sebastian's story. During in the Shadow of the Study, after going through the Dark Dungeon and talking to Sebastian, you have to pick the dialogue, "Teach me the Cruciatus Curse," and then I'll cast it on you, which is just kind of badass in my opinion. Like, yeah, yo man, can you teach me this torture spell so I can use it on your sorry ass? But yeah. But then you're taught the Crucio Unforgivable Curse, and then you can use it in combat against enemies. There's no negative side effects for using it and unlocking it for some reason. It doesn't change anything in the story or side quests. You don't get any sort of punishment for using one of the 3 illegal spells in the world. The only drawback is that the spell is also a long cooldown compared to regular damage spells. But if you work at it and you combine it with the previous, you'll see some insane but specifically in Innate Avada Kedavra Mastery. You see, this is how you can become the most powerful of all dark wizards in Hogwarts Legacy, if you choose to do this. And this setup allows you to do some insanely overpowered things that can take out massive groups of enemies with one spell. Yeah. What is essentially the glass cannon build for Hogwarts Legacy, if you know Crucio and Avada Kedavra spells, along with the mastery talents for these curses, you can be what is essentially death itself. Okay, you can't make any wands out of tree branches or cloaks by just cutting off your robe, but still, it's nuts. Avada Kedavra normally only targets one enemy. However, AK Master Talent allows for the curse to hit anyone with the Hidden Curse status effect, which is given to players who are hit with an unforgivable curse that doesn't kill them. Crucio is the easiest way to apply this effect, and with the Crucio Mastery Talent, you can cause Crucio to spread to other nearby targets as well. Yeah, it's very useful for spreading curse to multiple enemies without actually having to target all of them, which is important because, well, once curse has been applied to all or almost all the enemies, or whichever ones you want to take out, you can use Avada Kedavra once and wipe them all out. It doesn't matter what enemy you hit, as long as they're all cursed, all you have to do is use it once and you score an instant kill on everyone around you. They'll all just fall to the floor. It's nuts. And it's 7 Disillusionment. The Disillusionment charm may not seem useful for combat, because it's not really, but it is useful for stealth, which has an impact if you're using spells like the freezing spell. I don't want to say it, okay? Or it's like Petrificus Totalis or Total Petrification if you don't want to sound like you're in a Wizards of Waverly Place episode. But you can use it to open chests that lock up if they can see you. Yeah, it's just a matter of time before you actually run into a Disillusionment chest on your travels, and you can't unlock it unless you're invisible, so there you go. The spell allows you to become invisible, you can sneak up, and you can open it. Yeah, it's pretty obvious, okay? They're giant boxes with an eye on the front. So I feel like it's kind of obvious when you gotta use it. And since there's no invisibility cloak and you probably don't want to use potions, you'll love this spell, especially if you're prone to a stealth archer builds like I am. That's a Skyrim joke. Unfortunately though, this spell isn't available to students at the start of your journey. You can't. Yeah, you actually have to continue throughout the main quest line before you reach the Secrets of the Restricted section quest. But still, I don't know, I think we all want to be invisible at some point. I feel like it would be a great way to make money. It is 6 Flipendo. After completing Professor Garlick's first task, the second one rewards players with Flipendo. And this assignment, it's weird, okay? It's the herbology professor, so there's going to be a lot of plants involved. So, to complete this second assignment, players will need to use all 3 combat plants at the same time, while also growing and harvesting a fluxweed plant. First of all, combat plants? What the hell is this? Am I going to use Razor Leaf? Is it super effective? Am I gonna poison ivy, vine whip? I don't know. The plant has to specifically be grown and harvested in the room of requirement, so you're gonna have fun with that, okay? You actually have to go out and buy the plant. And then fluxweed itself takes like 15 real minutes to grow, which is a quarter of an hour I'm not getting back. So yeah, start it off at the beginning, I guess, and then you can do the other stuff. The seeds can be purchased in Hogsmeade for 350 galleons, and then after buying the seeds, you have to go to the room of requirement and then get a room that has a large pot. But that's not easy, so then you have to go to Tomes and Scrolls and then buy a scroll for the room of requirement, which I didn't think that was how it worked. I figured it was just whatever you're required, but okay game, have your limits. And then the cheapest scroll for that is 1,000 galleons, so you're already out like 3.5, or not 3.5, 1.5 grand. I can't math. But then after you buy the seeds, you plant them, and then you gotta wait 15 minutes. So during that time, you need to find all 3 combat plants, whatever the hell that means, and then use them at once on an enemy. I don't know, that's a lot to do to get a spell that has nothing to do with plants. Just saying. Okay, it flips people upside down. Where's the plants in that? I don't know.
Number 5. Meeting Ranrock. Ranrock comes out swinging in this game, and it's clear from the beginning that he is a villain who means business. Right at the beginning of the game, it starts off with you already on an adventure attempting to find your way to Hogwarts and ending up mysteriously at Gringotts. There you end up using a key you found to gain access to a very, very old vault. However, Ranrock forces his way in the vault also around the same time, seemingly looking for probably whatever it is you yourself were unknowingly hunting here. A character identified only as Goblin Banker in the subtitles, who let you into the vault in the first place, is also the one who let Ranrock in. He accompanies Ranrock into the area you've uncovered, deeper into the vault, but also insists that as Ranrock did not have the key to the vault, that he, should maybe leave, because it's not really supposed to be there. Ranrock doesn't take too kindly to these objections, tossing the banker up in the air with a red swirl of magic before dropping him with a devastating thud to the ground, presumably killing this poor banker. The banker that we met seemed so nice. I really did not like this part. I also was like, why doesn't he have a name? I would love if he had a name, but he doesn't have one. It definitely instantly made me feel both wary of Ranrock as well as inspired me to rebel against him. Revenge for the Goblin Banker. Nameless Goblin Banker. Number 4. Witnessing Death. You want to talk about scary? This game literally starts off with you being attacked by a dragon. Right from the beginning, we are immersed into a magical world filled with perils, and where around every corner it feels as though darkness lurks. The fact that you are in the middle of a scene where you seem to be getting information when the dragon attacks only adds to the scare factor, as it's super unexpected. I remember when I started the game, I was somewhat in shock. I was so chill, I was just playing and I was like, la 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 la, and then that just happened. I was already face to face with a dragon, and I really felt like I had just started. Going back to watch the scene, I also noticed a pretty grisly detail that I missed the first time I played through this. The carriage you were flying around in is obviously being pulled by Thestrals, which prior to you witnessing the death of Osric, you actually couldn't see. But as you turn around to look at the front of the carriage after the fateful crunch of the dragon's jaw, you may have noticed that the Thestrals actually revealed themselves, because now your character has witnessed a death. So yeah, I guess goodbye innocence. Number 3. A narrow escape. Definitely one of the most frightening moments for me was when we first escaped Ranrock. Ranrock shows up at Gringotts as we previously discussed and attacks you and Professor Fig. As the fight begins, the floor in the vault warps and a giant guardian knight rises up from it, fighting Ranrock first before being pushed back towards Professor Fig and taking a swing at him. Missing, its sword strikes a pillar which collapses just as you and Professor Fig move through a portal which has appeared in the vault that seems to lead to what appears to be a forest. Now when you come out of the portal, you realize you're near to Hogwarts as you get your first breathtaking look at it. The moment I came out though, I gotta say, before we get to the Hogwarts part, I was terrified, because I thought for sure Professor Fig would be smooshed, or he would have been hit or something by that pillar. I was like, oh man, what if I'm alone here? What if Professor Fig doesn't make it? Fortunately, none of that happens, and at that time, he's totally fine. But the fear of that happening in the moment was so real for me. It was too real, really. Number 2. Azkaban. If you can believe it, it isn't actually Slytherins that get to go on a quest that requires visiting one of the more terrifying places in all of the wizarding world. The awful prison known as Azkaban. It's Hufflepuff? That's right. If you want to explore this horrifying location whose prisoners and halls are haunted by Dementors, you'll have to have chosen Hufflepuff as your house. Would not have expected that, but I kinda love it. You can get the quest that involves a trip to Azkaban as a Hufflepuff from Eldritch Diggory's portrait, who will warn you of the dangers that lie ahead should you accept this mission. However, I've also heard it's one of the best quests of the game, so as terrifying as the prospect of visiting Azkaban is, it sounds like this quest may also be well worth the fright here. Number 1. Haunted. PlayStation exclusive. What's more horrifying than a scary mission? How about a scary mission that many of us can't even play? For those of you on PlayStation, this one is available for you, and you may even have already played it and now know about it yourself, which good for you. Cool. You have a PlayStation. I don't. so I don't get to play this one yet. But for the folks like me, sad PC players, or I also have an Xbox, I also have a Switch, but don't have a PlayStation, we do not get this quest yet because it's an exclusive at this time only for PlayStation. This quest is called Haunted Hogsmeade Shop, and it becomes available to players in the winter time and allows you to basically buy your very own shop in Hogsmeade. Sounds lovely. However, there's a bit of a catch. The shop has a chest in the back, which is basically filled with, how can I put it, like a haunted house, like a haunted dungeon. It's wild. You will have to explore the house or dungeon to solve its mysteries and acquire the items that the previous shop's owner, Cassandra Mason, asked you to gather, which she says supposedly belonged to her late husband, but as you continue to explore, you're going to uncover some truths here. However, you won't be able to do this until you face Fastidio and are able to match with and defeat him. Get ready for items that move on their own, rooms plunged into darkness subtly, mannequins that spring to life and attempt to destroy you, and hallways that shift seemingly to elongate as you run down them. Honestly, this whole place reminds me of another haunted place I've had to explore before in a game, the Ocean House Hotel, which you may know from Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, and that is also a super spooky place with a super morbid mystery in it. I mean, this one's not quite as morbid as that one, but they're both pretty spooky.
In at 10, Chamber of Secrets. The Chamber of Secrets is one of the most iconic locations in all of Harry Potter, let alone Hogwarts, so of course it's gonna show up in Legacy, right? I mean, come on. Well, actually, yes and no. You're unable to access it, but it does still technically exist, since you can find the sink used as the entrance in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, which has yet to actually be possessed, because she hasn't been killed. Also, it was built under the school, so it has to be there if the school is. Oh, and there's also the freaking basilisk Easter egg, where you literally watch a giant snake go through the hall in front of you in the Slytherin common room, okay? So much for using the plumbing, I guess. Twitter user Maxim Raggy posted a clip online that showed them exploring the Slytherin common room before they attempted to climb a set of stairs that couldn't be accessed. But before the game forced you back down, you can actually see the basilisk cross in front of you. Kind of like in the distance a little bit, but it's still in front of you, which I guess gives you a reason why you can't go up those stairs. But it also begs the question, who let this thing out if Tom hasn't gotten his letter yet? In at 9, Horcruxes. When players explore the restricted section of the library with Sebastian Salo, they will end up passing an odd-looking, moving book that Sebastian points out specifically. That's because he calls it the Secrets of the Darkest Arts, but maybe you are unaware of its significance, because I definitely was. Only hardcore Harry Potter fans would actually be able to pick up on the fact that this is the very same book where Tom Riddle, aka Voldemort, learns about Horcruxes, which then leads to the conversation with Slughorn about being able to split your soul into multiple pieces. The book, at least from what we know, was later removed by Dumbledore when he had the ability to do so, but Hermione still reads it after his death. But yeah, if you're interested in how to make Horcruxes, the book is there, but as far as I know, you're unable to read it, and definitely unable to make them. Although that would be interesting. You just going around. I wish that like this game was kind of more like Infamous in that sense, with like the morality system thing. Instead of just like kind of forcing you to be a good guy, I think it would be fun, especially for you Slytherins out there. Yeah, that's right, I know it. And at 8, Snape in a Box. During the course of the game's main story, the player will head into the Room of Requirement with Professor Weasley. Yes, that kind of Weasley. Among the thousands of other items hidden by Hogwarts students over the past years and centuries, there are many secrets that you can't find in this room, and plenty of other Easter eggs. But one reference in particular is harder to spot than the majority. As players walk past a boar's head and then a painting of a witch in a pose similar to what I assume a French girl would make, they trigger a music box. The music box will only open this one time, so keep your eyes out unless you want to be like the majority of players who will miss the fact that the figure that pops out of the snake looks an awful lot like future potions master Severus Snape, which is a whole other can of worms that I don't want to get into because I break my brain enough with FNAF time travel, let alone Harry Potter time travel. But you know what, it's still a nice tribute to the late Alan Rickman. And at 7, denoming. Although many memorable moments from the Harry Potter books didn't make it into the film franchise, fans can enjoy the added length and depth giggity of Hogwarts Legacy that provides a platform for these beloved scenes to finally get some attention they deserve. One such moment that fans hold close to their hearts is when Harry helps the Weasleys denome their garden. In the game, players get a taste of this classic scene when they attend their first herbology lesson. Leander Pruitt, an ancestor of Molly Weasley, shares his own memories of de-gnoming and how he used to swing the gnomes around until they were dizzy before shooting them off as far as possible, in the hopes that they would be too dizzy to actually make their way back to the garden. This entertaining and memorable scene is sure to delight fans of the books and provide a fun and exciting addition to the game, although I kinda wish that we could have done it. Okay, that would be a great minigame. That would be a fun way to ruin a joystick, okay? And I swear I didn't mean for that part to sound dirty. And at 6, Elephant on a Bicycle, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. The third installment in the series is widely regarded as one of the best. I mean, I find it to be kind of bland, but I guess that's personal opinion. The movie is shorter and doesn't really have that much going on aside from time travel, but again, like I said, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. But one scene in particular that stands out in the film is when Harry and his fellow Gryffindor classmates in their third year are sampling an assortment of sweets in Gryffindor Tower. This small but memorable moment showcases the boys hilariously impersonating various animals brought on by the candies, including an elephant and lion, until Harry tries one that transforms him into a freaking steam train or something. I don't know what happened there. He looked like my mom after I leave a spoon in the sink for too long. But interestingly enough, fans of the series can actually eat the same sweets in the game and have their effects as well. Yeah, by visiting Honeydukes and finding the Elephant on a Bicycle poster, players can enjoy these magical sweets, and you can be an elephant on a bicycle, or you can be a lion, or you can be a spoon in the sink.
Number 5, defeat bosses. That's really brought the mood down that last point. I don't know. I love petting all the cats in Hogwarts Legacy, so don't come for them, or I will come for you. One of the other things that you can do with Avada Kedavra, though, that aside, it gets a very intense reaction out of some of the bosses that you're going to encounter in this game. Well, not all of them are quite easily as defeated with Avada Kedavra, as some have cutscenes that they need to stay alive for, such as the Ranrock Dragon and the Grafhorn. There are many that can actually be one-shotted with this curse, which honestly, it makes it really tempting to me to use. I personally am notoriously bad at blocking in combat, and while I enjoy the fun of casting spells, it would be nice to have something that I could use to just kind of like one-shot most of my enemies, bosses included, that I've just died too many times and I'm like, you know what? Avada Kedavra, like, this is too frustrating, let's skip this. I honestly think this makes the killing curse though insanely overpowered. Perhaps not as much as cabbages though in the game. I mean, at least with the killing curse, you'd expect it to do enough damage to kill an enemy, and then of course maybe even a boss, but with cabbages, well, you would never expect them to do that. However, if you want something more direct and simple than the Chinese chomping cabbage farm, you can always just learn Avada Kedavra. Although I suppose it is important to note that you need to wait until you are high enough level to cast it, which usually means you're actually going to have even completed the main quest at that point in the game, as the main quest is actually a lower level quest than the ones you need to undertake before you can unlock the killing curse. So.
And at 4, Chamber of Secrets. Okay, now while the Chamber of Secrets may not be accessible in Hogwarts Legacy, it's still very much present. From multiple references to the second installment of the main series, like a Polyjuice potion in the bathroom and the sink in Moaning Myrtle's yet to be possessed bathroom, there's even a basilisk Easter egg that can appear in the Slytherin common room, but that last one also implies that there is an heir to Salazar Slytherin who's currently at the school who released the basilisk. So why couldn't that be you? I mean, many people already assume the game will release a DLC at some point, and while I'd personally enjoy a Triwizard Tournament more than this, opening the chamber and causing some havoc would be a pretty damn good use for the killing curse. I mean, it's the killing curse, and it's a giant freaking snake monster. But considering how the game kinda shoehorns you into being a hero who saves the day, I don't think that is that likely of a possibility, unfortunately. Because, like, come on, if I can't let my homicidal urges out in a video game, that's just gonna be bad news for everyone. That's a joke, guys, okay? My homicidal urges are within the normal amount. Wait, sorry, what? Oh, the normal amount is 0. Oh no.
Number 3, strengthen your relationship. One of the ways you can use this curse is to actually strengthen your bonds to certain individuals in the game. Spoiler incoming on this point, major spoiler, and honestly from this point on there's a couple coming up, so just so you know. I am of course talking about your friend and mine, resident Hogwarts bad boy, Sebastian Sallows. I honestly love Sebastian's character, and it's during your relationship quests with him that he will offer to teach you this epic, unforgivable curse. And if you don't want to learn it the first time that he offers it, feeling, maybe it's an inappropriate time for you despite your perhaps interest in learning it later, you will be given a second opportunity to not only learn Avada Kedavra, but also any of the other unforgivable curses you feel you missed out on from Sebastian himself. Why am I not surprised that Sebastian is the one who offers to teach us the darkest spells in existence? Definitely a bad boy through and through, I suppose. Sebastian.
But ultimately, in at number 2, Betrayal. Welcome to Watch Mojo. Today we'll be counting down the top 10 worst anime betrayals, but it's Hogwarts Legacy. While yes, you can strengthen your relationship with Sebastian by learning the unforgivables, you can also ruin it and stab him in the back. And while that may sound terrible, it doesn't come without reason. You see, you'll spend all this time getting to know Sebastian, and you may even think you guys are chill. You may think you're buddies. Maybe you're even like two kindred spirits. But spoiler alert, when he ends up using the unforgivable on his uncle, well, then what do? You can ignore it, and you can just pretend like it didn't happen. Because I mean, come on, you clicked on this video to find more ways to use Avada Kedavra, for God's sakes. But you can also turn Sebastian in for using the curse, which I find funny because you're like, hey, he used an unforgivable, and not hey, he murdered somebody. Should you choose to stab your friend in the back for literally committing homicide, the game will adapt to it, causing the ending as well as some other story points to be a little bit different. Mostly, I'm guessing, because he's not around for them, but the choice is ultimately yours. Do you want to be friends with the guy who killed his uncle, or do you want to get rid of him now that you no longer really have a use? Yeah, that's right. I turned it into something dark and disturbing. It's one of my many talents.
Number 1. Skip ahead to Priori Incantatem. Question mark? Priori Incantatem, is that you? Not only can you use this spell to defeat bosses, but it can also be used to basically just skip ahead in some battles to the final moment. So while some foes are not able to just be straight up killed by the killing curse, there are also those enemies who, while not killed immediately, will simply become killable as a result of you using it, if that makes sense to you. Basically, in your final battle against Victor Rookwood, for example, using the Avada Kedavra curse allows you to skip ahead to what some are referring to, I think kind of incorrectly here, as Priori Incantatem, when your two spells hit one another, allowing you to push back against Rookwood's own attempt to cast the killing curse on you, because Rookwood loves that curse. However, it is unclear if this is really Priori Incantatem, as there are of course no echoes of past spells, and it's unclear if our wands actually even share the same core here. Also, one of the wands indeed seems to get destroyed with its wielder, so it doesn't seem to be Priori Incantatem to me. In the books, Priori Incantatem can only happen when two wands share the exact same core, being seen as brothers, and it is extremely rare. It happens in the instance when the wands refuse to kill one another. However, in the films, Harry Potter and Voldemort finish their battle in a similar way when their two spells collide, although this doesn't seem to quite be Priori Incantatem either. Voldemort here is not using his own wand, but the Elder Wand, which I believe has a Thestral core. Harry's wand is a Phoenix Feather core, so these two wands don't even share a core from the same kind of magical beast, let alone the same specific animal. Just as Voldemort turns to dust, Rookwood seems to explode into dust, following the final time when your spells collide and you successfully push your magic back into his wand. I don't know what core Rookwood's wand is, but it just seems like this is more of like a film adaptation of Priori Incantatem, if that's even what's happening, or simply two spells colliding and not Priori Incantatem at all that we're seeing here. But I get it, people see spells colliding and they think, hey, maybe some Priori Incantatem. I get it.
In at 10, Imperio. Imperio is classified as an unforgivable curse that can temporarily control enemies and make them fight for you. To obtain the curse, players must follow specific steps that are basically just, you get it as part of Sebastian's side quest line kind of thing, which can be initiated by selecting certain dialogues during the side quest called In the Shadow of the Bloodline. It's located in the Great Hall. I mean, come on, you're gonna end up doing it no matter what. After completing main quest number 29, Astronomy class, this quest will automatically appear in your quest log. To unlock the Shadow of Time, which is the quest where you get Imperio, you also have to complete Shadow of the Study and Shadow of Discovery. During this quest, players will encounter Sebastian and have to actually choose to learn the Imperious Curse after opening the first skeleton door, and if you miss the chance to unlock it during this quest, then you'll have to learn it later on after completing his full quest line. So you're gonna have to wait even more. But like, damn, okay, what the hell? That's a lot to go through to learn the spell. Can't we just like have Mad-Eye Moody's ancestor teach us real quick? It's like, just show me what the name is, and then I'm good, right? That's how it works, I feel.
Number 9, Revelio. Revelio is one of the first spells you learn, so you might think it's kind of odd that I've included it here on a list where we're mainly talking about spells later in the game that we wish we could learn earlier. But this is because, well, yes, there are later spells that would definitely have been useful at the beginning of the game in battles and for other tasks, you know, like Imperio. There are actually spells that you just default start the game knowing, and Revelio, it ain't one of them. Now you do learn it in the tutorial though, which is probably done to better help you understand, you know, the spell and how to utilize it, as it is extremely useful. Still, as someone that is very familiar with playing RPG games, I was already looking to cast Revelio as soon as I dropped into the game. I didn't even know it was going to be a spell, I just thought it was going to be a function in the game, which it's cool that it's a function and it's a spell, but still. For me, I wish I had access to it alongside the default spells our character already just seems to inherently know. Revelio is a spell which reveals hidden items or simply interactive items to the player in a nearby area, with them pinging and being revealed by sort of like a glowing outline, very briefly upon your cast of Revelio. In RPGs, this is the type of action that I'm doing every other second because I'm always fearful of missing something, so for me, having it at the beginning would have helped me to not waste time searching an area that really had nothing in it that I really wasn't, I don't think, supposed to be searching, and would have helped me to actually find items I needed or wanted more easily from the beginning of the game. And like I said, I was already in there like, how do I do the ping thing? And then I was like, okay, that's apparently not a thing, and then they taught it to me and I was like, what? Okay, cool, now I know.
Inundate Confringo. This spell can be obtained during the first term of the main storyline by completing a side quest, again given to you by Sebastian. Towards the end of that term, players will receive an owl letter instructing them to meet Sebastian in the Dark Arts Tower. Upon arrival, players will be taken to the Undercroft, where Sebastian will teach them the spell. During this quest, players will have the opportunity to practice the spell on little chandelier brazier things hanging on the ceiling, and then once the quest is completed, you can use it whenever you want. The primary purpose of the spell is to counteract enemies' red shields and inflict damage on ranged opponents, and this is due to its ranged casting ability, which actually allows them to strike from a longer distance, unlike Incendio, because that one's kinda trash. But considering how trash Incendio is compared to this one, we should learn it right away. Okay, I mean, come on. Whatever happened to learning how to defend ourselves against the Dark Arts? With Dark Arts.
Number 7, Reparo. While you do learn Reparo in Hogwarts Legacy, and as anticipated, you unlock it through collecting field guide pages, you don't really learn it nearly fast enough for me. This is a spell that presented itself as useful to me even before I had actually learned it, being that I was walking around and already seeing stuff like broken statues, things that were broken, that I was like, oh hey, I bet Reparo would be useful here, I bet I'm supposed to fix this and I get something. So I was really eager to get Reparo so that I could, you know, get repairing stuff. Once you learn Reparo, you completely unlock sort of field pages which you can go around and collect, although even at that point in the game they're already a presence, they become more of a presence. Most will probably already see the use for this spell in the very quest where you are meant to get the spell, as the quest, when it's given to you in the form of homework from your charms professor, Professor Ronan, one of my favorite professors thus far in the game, is given to you in an enclosed outdoor courtyard in front of a statue. In this same area, only a few paces away, is of course a broken statue that used to look out over the lake. This statue, which was said to represent heartbreak, is the one that you're going to repair, so you can test out Reparo once you've gathered enough field pages to basically unlock the spell, which Professor Ronan will teach you and have you try out on the statue. Now of course, because I saw the statue, because I'm constantly exploring everything, I was like, whoa, can I just cast this now? No, not yet, you have to do homework.
And it's 6, Petrificus Totalis. One of the easiest ways to defeat enemies in Hogwarts Legacy is by using the spell Petrificus Totalis. Man, I feel like I'm in a Wizards of Waverly Place episode. The same charm that Hermione casts on Neville in The Philosopher's Stone, the first book. This magical skill isn't like the others that's actually on this list though, because it can only be used when you're being stealthy and sneaking up on enemies. You can make the spell more effective by upgrading it and upgrading your stealth abilities, and doing this can make it harder for enemies to detect you, allowing you to like run when invisible and stuff, but you have to be stealth whenever you use it, okay? And you can't use this spell until you've actually completed the Secrets of the Restricted Section main quest. So you gotta wait for that too. But like again, the worst part is that it's a stealth spell, okay? Meaning that you have to avoid detection, and you can't cast it mid-combat. Because once you get into combat, you can't use the spell anymore. Okay, which it's stupid, because whether you can see me or not, you can still get petrified. So why did they have to add the handicap onto the spell? Do better, Hogwarts. Hermione wasn't stealthed.
Number 5, deadliest weapon. When I saw this in Hogwarts Legacy, I actually figured this would be like my calling for combat tactics. I didn't need a guide to tell me that. I was like, this seems OP. We are talking about one of the first magical plants you're going to encounter in one of my all-time favorite classes, herbology. In your first herbology class, Professor Garlick first introduces you to mandrake root before she has a student escort you to visit the Chinese chomping cabbages, to feed and also really to harvest them, giving you some cabbage ammunition to start out with, but also acting as a demonstration for how the cabbages work in the game and can be used in attacks. Players have already put time into building their cabbage army and enhancing their plant stats, and it turns out they actually might be one of the most OP weapons in the game, so my feelings about this initially were pretty correct. Do you not believe me? The cabbages are OP? Just Google it. Rognar Athio on YouTube actually has kind of a demonstration video with tips and tricks for anyone who wants to check out and exploit this insanely powerful weapon, which can reportedly help you to take down bosses in seconds. And there's tons of guides out there as well for how to sort of max your stats on cabbages. But make sure you build this quickly, as at any point magical plants, including Chinese chomping cabbages, could be nerfed by developers, because that's how like crazy effective they are. Number 4, Viaduct Bridge Puzzle. This puzzle seems even more obvious than the door puzzles to me, but I know there are those out there who have found it equally, if not more, challenging to crack. So don't worry, no judgment there. This is puzzles. Puzzles are hard. The Viaduct Bridge is the large one that exists between the library annex and the Great Hall. It is awesome. It is inspiring. It is a bridge, and it has a puzzle on it for you to solve. In order for you to even attempt this one, though, there is a certain spell that you are definitely going to need, unlike the previous door puzzles, which don't require you to have learned really any spells to attempt to solve them. For this puzzle, you need to know the spell Incendio, because we are going to need to set some braziers on fire. That's right, brazier, not brazier. On the side of the bridge nearest to the library annex, you will notice on the floor a cipher. The cipher tells you what number in Roman numerals you need at each brazier in order to unlock its secret. The cipher itself is actually a trapdoor which will open once you have successfully matched each symbol to the correct number on the brazier. To adjust the Roman numeral on the brazier, you must cast Incendio to ignite it, and then you simply interact with it to set it to the right number. Number 3, the Basilisk. This one straight up gave me chills when I was reading about it. Oh, I'm getting them now, oh my gosh. The Basilisk is a creature that guards the Chamber of Secrets in Hogwarts, but while it's been mentioned in the books, seen in the movies, it is not expected to appear in the open world RPG based off of both. Sad. Most people were wondering if, like the Room of Requirement, Hogwarts Legacy also featured this hidden area at the famed School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. But alas, that initially does not seem to be the case. I say initially because it turns out the Basilisk has been spotted, and also because, this game just came out, so there's things we could still find later. And this user that did spot the Basilisk even managed to live to tell the tale somehow. Castile JA on Twitter posted a short video from their PS5 playthrough where they were exploring the Slytherin common room and went to head up some enchanted stairs, but couldn't. At the top of the staircase, down the hall, where they weren't able to go, but where they can see, you can see what appears to be a giant serpent passing through a perpendicular corridor, leaving the player to assume they had just somehow spotted this mythical basilisk. However, some in the comments have claimed this could be an enchanted door or even a glitched out monster of the lake, since the Slytherin common room does exist in the dungeons of the school and, is kind of beneath the lake itself. Number 2, Slytherin Sink. While not something apparently in the game, at least not as far as we've seen thus far, there is an acknowledgement of the Chamber of Secrets. The entrance to it has a field page guide for you to collect, though. While not something apparently in the game, at least not as far as we've seen thus far, there is an acknowledgement somewhat of the Chamber of Secrets. The entrance to it has a field page guide for you to collect. This field guide page is located in the girls' bathroom near the Slytherin common room. The field guide page is simply titled Slytherin Sink and goes on to read as follows. Scratched into one of the copper taps on this seemingly ordinary sink in the girls' toilets is a small snake. No one knows what it means. Number 1, Chamber of Secrets. While in the movies and books it's mentioned that the Chamber of Secrets has been closed off for years, with only Tom Riddle ever being mentioned as the one to open it prior to Harry doing so, it has been stated that there is visible evidence in the chamber that it has been opened more than once since its construction by Salazar Salazar Slytherin. The fact that a descendant of Salazar's is also currently at the school among us fellow Slytherin, who goes by the name of Ominous Gaunt, honestly one of my current Hogwarts crushes in this game, could mean there might actually be some way to open the chamber. Though I imagine Ominous wouldn't necessarily be seeking to do so, since he actually prefers to distance himself from his family and from the Salazar name, ashamed of his ancestors' preference for only pure blood magic users, and ashamed of like sort of the dark wizards and his family. So I don't know if he's gonna be into opening the chamber or if it's possible, but just a thing I noticed. Number 10, the Absconder. I'm gonna try to keep this list light, by the way, in terms of spoilers, so while I will be jumping into some of the quests and of course what is spooky about them, I'm just gonna try and avoid major spoilers for those of you that are joining us in terms of the story of the game. I didn't want to spoil that for myself as I'm not completely through, and I didn't really want to spoil that for any of you either because I know, we're all still probably playing this thing. So you can feel safe to join us regardless of where you are in the main quest and the story following it. This focus of this point though involves going into the Forbidden Forest. And not just facing a ton of acrobantula, but a massive one as well, known as the Absconder. Those with a fear of spiders, beware. This might not be a quest for you. You can get the quest to have your chance at an encounter with the Absconder by talking to Edgar Adley, whose friend basically convinced him to help him acquire something from the Forbidden Forest for them to sell. However, things quickly went awry when Edgar learned his friend Milo's plan was basically to get venom from an acromantula. Milo, of course, did not make it, sadly, and not only did Edgar leave his friend's body behind, which he feels pretty bad about, but also Milo's pocket watch, which in his last moments, Milo actually pleaded for Edgar to take with him and deliver to his daughter. The Absconder, however, is not only frightening to fight because of their appearance, but also because of just like how tough they are as well. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we are doing here with some Hogwarts Legacy content, if you're super into the games, let us know by clicking that thumbs up button. Number 9, Rookwood Castle. Venturing into Rookwood Castle is a pretty scary prospect when you consider that it is teeming with enemies and puzzles, but other than that, it is pretty much abandoned. Going into Rookwood Castle is required as part of the main quest, so it's also something you kinda can't avoid. In order to access the castle, you must figure out how to get in though, which for some can be a bit of a puzzle in and of itself. In order to find your way to the entrance, you must speak to Professor Rookwood's portrait on the castle grounds, and basically he will guide you in to continue your trials. But even more frightening, he also warns that you can only proceed alone, so you gotta do it all by yourself. Just walking down the hall in this old, beautiful, and drafty castle as you undertake the second trial is eerie in and of itself. Being alone in like a big space, I don't know what that is, but that's a scary thing. Why is that scary? It just is. Number 8, locked up with no place to go. While it's only a brief moment in the games, one of the most terrifying moments for me is still when I was first locked inside the Gringotts vault alongside Professor Fig near the beginning of the game. The Goblin Banker lets you into the vault but says that the vault's owner also asked that whoever accessed it basically be locked inside. A pretty terrifying prospect, to be honest. With no visible way out, you are taught a new spell by Professor Fig, Revelio, probably one of the most useful spells I would say in the game. Using this spell, you are able to find a magically hidden door, and using your power to see ancient magic, you are able to open said magical door, which opens up into a dark and massive room. Personally, the idea for me of being locked away in a vault for the rest of my days is horrifying. But then again, when I first opened the door and then had to take a step into the darkness with only Lumos to guide my path, I was wondering whether or not it might just be better to stay in the vault for the rest of my days, actually, as opposed to, facing whatever was waiting for me out there in the dark. It's a scary. Number 7, escaping into the night. The first encounter I had with Victor Rookwood, I wasn't sure how I was going to make it back to Hogwarts safely. When you first go to Hogsmeade to recoup some supplies that were used on your way to Hogwarts, you of course encounter some trouble. Because, you're gonna encounter a lot of trouble throughout the game, let's be real. It seems the village ruffian and all-around scoundrel Victor Rookwood is trying to get you killed as he's in league with Ranrock. When this fails, he attempts to corner you at the Three Broomsticks. Fortunately, the owner of the pub at this point in history, Serona Ryan, manages to keep you safe there, kicking Victor out. However, the concern remains as Rookwood basically promises to be waiting for you outside and makes note that, you can't stay in the Three Broomsticks forever. Ugh. This threat had me personally shaken in my booties, considering that I felt Rookwood at this point was a much higher level boss than I could probably take on based on, the spells I knew. And I didn't know how exactly we planned on getting back to the castle safely. I mean, I guess there is the flu network, but I don't know. I imagined we'd have to sneak all the way back to the castle. In my mind, I was like, I guess we're gonna have to do that. I don't know if I can sneak that long. Fortunately, you just finish this scene with a time lapse that returns you safely to Hogwarts without you actually needing to worry. I mean, I guess, like I said, we could always just flew there in theory anyways, so that's probably why. But still, the prospect of having to face Rookwood potentially in the game so early certainly scared me. Like when he threatens you of like, you can't be in here forever, I was like, dang, he's right. We're in trouble. No, we're not. We're just gonna time lapse back to the school. It's all good. Number 6, visiting the Forbidden Forest. The Forbidden Forest is one of the most exciting areas of Hogwarts castle grounds, but it's also the most restricted area as well. Not somewhere students are meant to roam and often hang out, but for you, a location you will likely frequent as a result of quests and also to feel the exhilarating rush of facing off against some of the most fearsome, magical beasts in the wizarding world. Because of this, however, it's also likely one of the scariest places to be in this game, especially when you first go there and uncover what manner of enemies are lurking in the darkness waiting to meet you, attack you, and perhaps even feast upon you, should they be the ones to win the fight against you. I wonder how many times in total I will have died in this game while in the Forbidden Forest.
Halfway through into number 5, Pumpkinhead. The Malfoy's Jinx is never seen in the movies, but its purpose is encasing the head of the target in a pumpkin. Yeah. To bystanders, however, it just looks like the head was turned into a pumpkin, which is, I find that absolutely hilarious. Pumpkin Johnny was a mysterious Halloween figure said to cast this jinx on Hogwarts students if he was summoned. He was supposedly a Hogwarts student who was bullied due to his fondness for pumpkins, and then had his head trapped in a pumpkin when a student cast this jinx on him on Halloween. He then fled into the Forbidden Forest and was never seen again, and could be summoned on Halloween if his name was said out loud 3 times. He's basically the Beetlejuice of the wizarding world. And similar to Eat Slugs, I would like this to be in the game just so I can have some fun with the students since we can't harm them, which sounds horrible, but it was a nickname in high school for me. Maybe they'll add it in as a Halloween reward come October of this year, since they already did that in Harry Potter Hogwarts Mystery. Yeah, you can use it in there, so do it this time.
Number 4, apparate. While apparating is not allowed, permitted, or I believe even possible on the castle grounds of Hogwarts School for Witchcraft and Wizardry, and while flying around on a broom is super fun and using the flu network super useful, I still imagine that there are many people out there like me who are hoping that apparating would be possible, especially in the outside world. I mean, apparating isn't allowed at Hogwarts, but I'm sure once you're off the school grounds, it would be allowed, it would be possible. I guess the difficulty in a video game would be allowing people to load, just about anywhere, as opposed to like having points on the map that they can travel to, loading points. I'm not entirely sure, as I'm not a programmer or a game dev myself, but I imagine based on my limited knowledge that this would be a lot more work from a coding standpoint. That and the fact that much of our time is still spent at Hogwarts is probably why we don't get to apparate, but if perhaps we continue to get more RPG based games set in the wizarding world, this will become possible in the future. After we are more playing outside of Hogwarts, maybe in a game where we're playing as, a fully graduated student. Although Fantastic Beasts as a franchise overall flopped, I must admit I still found the magical world of the Americas that we explored pretty much exclusively outside of school super interesting. And as an adult magic user, it's more likely we'd be apparating around primarily as opposed to fluing or flying.
Getting close to the end in number 3, Ricocempra, or Ricocempra, however you want to say it. Basically, it's just the tickling charm, and it's quite the interesting spell. In duels, it's mostly used as a diversionary tactic meant to distract or temporarily incapacitate opponents, like Harry did to Draco in Chamber of Secrets. Got a lot of Chamber of Secrets spells in this list. But come on, you can't tell me that you wouldn't want to go around making people fall to the ground laughing, okay? That would be one of the most hilarious ways to spend your free time in this game. And then add on to that the fact that you're spreading laughter, the best medicine to your whole school. Damn, you're the hero of this game for a reason. Maybe you think it's funny, maybe you think it's a form of torture because you don't like being tickled yourself, but to be honest, I can't imagine She Who Must Not Be Named believes people with sensory issues exist, so everyone at the school would probably enjoy it. Or maybe you just want to try and recreate that horrifically uncomfortable Riverdale plot line in this game. Who knows, okay? Whatever floats your boat or tickles your goat, I guess.
Number 2, Scourge. For fans of the classic 2000s Harry Potter games, the Scourge charm is another nostalgic one. For some reason, in those original PC games inspired by the films, there was just slime everywhere, described by Professor Flitwick to be ectoplasm, left behind by ghostly entities, and you had to remove said ectoplasm to explore and uncover loot by casting Scourge pretty much on a loop, depending on the mission, of course. I guess the abundance of green slime does make sense considering that Hogwarts is rampant with ghosties, and for this reason Scourge gives me all the nostalgic feels because of the abundance of ectoplasm that I encountered on one of my first video game journeys into the wizarding world, where I played at the time as Harry Potter himself because, you know, that was really your only option back then. Sadly, no trace of this weirdly familiar charm is in Hogwarts Legacy, and also a lack of ectoplasm based obstacles too, in my humble opinion.
And finally, in at number 1, Pier Totem Locomoto, or Locomotor, whatever, okay? I'm not Latin. Probably one of the most iconic moments in the series. Pier Totem Locomotor is the spell used to animate the suits of armor and additional statues at the entrance to the school before the Battle of Hogwarts by Professor McGonagall. The spell is actually seen in the beginning of this game in the opening section, as statues like drop from the ceiling and then you gotta fight them, but beyond that the spell isn't usable in the game, which actually kinda sucks because it seems to have a load of applications. I mean, yeah, stone knights are cool, but Flitwick uses it to immobilize Snape with a suit of armor, which would be a pretty cool environmental mechanic to add to combat. McGonagall uses it on the wizard chessboard that was protecting the Philosopher's Stone, and Molly Weasley uses it on her knives to help cut potatoes. So there's plenty of ways to use this spell as well, alright? So it just seems like there would have been such a cool aspect that would have been added to the game if they had included the spell, but they didn't, so shame on you.